All right, welcome to the Larry Elder Show. This is your special guest host, Carl Jackson, filling in for the great Eldersky. The number to call in, 888-971-7243, 888-971-7243. We're coming to you live from the ReliefFactor.com studio. We got a lot to talk to you about. This is a Saturday, so I hope you're preparing to have a great weekend. At the top of the second hour, I'm going to have Mark Walters of Armed American Radio joining me. We'll be talking about the shooting at Kroger, maybe things you should do to protect yourself. Biden is planning to visit Chicago to promote vaccines next week. That sounds very promising. But I think he should be visiting Chicago for other reasons. And I'll get into that with Mark Walters of Armed American Radio. 10 questions the Arizona audit election or election audit should be answering today. We'll get into that. CVS. Did you guys know that CVS has turned into some straight up social justice warrior punks? I hate to say it. I like CVS. But CVS is going down this path of wanting to be these social justice warriors, and they are making their staff, they're brainwashing staff members, making staff members take courses basically on critical race theory, oppression, so on, etc. And then I'll get into this New York BLM leader who's promising an uprising. I actually may get to that much earlier because I think this is the area in which I want to start. Guys, let me tell you this as conservatives. Oh, and first, let me say this. By the way, I attended an event yesterday with Job Creators Network. Absolutely amazing. Absolutely phenomenal. Mike Gallagher was there. Rebecca Wasser was there. Alfredo Ortiz. It was just a phenomenal event. The crowd was phenomenal. It was an honor meeting every single one of you men and ladies. There were some young kid, Colin, 13 years old, that attended. A young man by the name of Dylan, 24 years old. He and his girlfriend. It was so impressive to see young people that are in the conservative fight. God bless every single one of you. It was an amazing event. I want to thank Phil Boyce. I want to thank Barb Yoder, and just everyone that participated and helped us out. That was just a cool, fun experience, and I just appreciate it. And I appreciate all of you that were in the fight for freedom at the Job Creators Network event yesterday. I want to talk to you about the borders. I want to talk to you about social justice. There's just so much news today. It's not even funny. Biden could owe as much as $500,000 in back taxes, but he wants the rich to pay their fair share. I'm assuming he'll look in the mirror eventually. Chris Cuomo is in trouble. He grabbed a little booty 15 years ago, and he's in trouble. We'll talk about that briefly. Al Sharpton was heckled today. Al Sharpton, Big Perm, heckled during a presser. As a matter of fact, let's start there. Let's go right to this audio clip of Big Perm being heckled at the border.
Baptist Church, Reverend Freddie Hayes.
How much money are you making out of racism where it doesn't exist? How much money?
Why are you trying to come and promote violence? Why are you advocating for violence? Why are you advocating for violence? Del Rio is not a racist city. Del Rio is a loving, caring community. We don't want your racism in Texas. Get out of here. Nobody wants to hear your racist nonsense in Del Rio.
You're a disgrace.
You're a racist. Nobody wants you in Texas. Nobody wants you in Texas. Why are you not a voice for the children that have gone missing at the border? Where is your voice then? Get out of your racism.
All right, good. I'm glad a Big Perm got a taste of his own medicine. This guy is a complete and utter disgrace. This guy is a race hustler. This guy is a fraud. The left are frauds. They're exposed. You know, one thing I've been telling you guys, we've had to, as much as it stinks, as much as it hurts, it's almost as if we needed to lose the election in order to save America, because all of this stuff was happening underneath the surface. And the left has been trying to fundamentally transform America for quite some time, and they've been moving swiftly. Now, since they've been exposed, COVID has exposed them. That's put them on the express train, if you will, to socialism. They want us to get on the express train to socialism, but they've been exposed. And now it's up to us to fight back. And I'm so glad to see that people are beginning to fight back, including BLM, Uncle BLM. Can you believe it? Hat Tip Daily Wire, the co-founder of Black Lives Matter group in New York, warned of an uprising similar to that of George Floyd protests last year, that occurred last year over vaccination requirements. Now, I don't condone any violence whatsoever, but I'm just glad to see these people speaking out on this particular issue. And I got to be honest with you, I don't agree with probably anything Uncle BLM says. But on this particular issue, if I can find an issue to agree with Uncle BLM that will help all Americans, I'm willing to do that. Shavonna Newsom, an organizer with Uncle BLM of Greater New York, led a protest on Monday at Carmine's Italian restaurant in New York City after a hostess denied entry to 3 black women last week because they would not provide proof of vaccination. The women, tourists from Texas, allegedly attacked the hostess and were arrested on charges of assault and criminal mischief. 72%, this is according to Shavonna Newsom of Uncle BLM, 72% of black people in this city from ages 18 to 44 are unvaccinated. This is what Newsom claimed. So what is going to stop the Gestapo, she says, the New York PD, the NYPD, from rounding up black people, from snatching them off the train and off the bus? Okay, I got to pause there. And I'll tell you why. This is where I split ways with Uncle BLM. I appreciate their protest when it comes to this vaccine. I don't appreciate them destroying this man's business or this woman's, Carmine's Italian restaurant. I don't appreciate that. These people are following orders. I'm sure they're liberals who maybe they get a kick out of having a little power too and telling people what to. I have no idea. But for the most part, you know what? I'm not going to knock a restaurant for trying to survive and just trying to follow code because they want to make a living. But I do think this bigger issue of forcing people to get vaccinated is huge. And it's huge within the black community because of the Negro Project. People have heard the stories. People know what that's about. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, the black community hasn't been able to get the gist when it comes to abortion, but at least when it comes to the Negro Project, which ultimately, it's crazy. It's crazy. I know. I get it. I understand. But nonetheless, I'm glad this is happening. But here's the problem with Uncle BLM. They don't know who the real enemy is. So I've heard conservatives say, much like myself, hey, listen, great. BLM is going after these vaccination mandates. That's great. They're on our side with this. Maybe some of these people will wake up. No. That's not what's happening here. I'm glad that they're speaking out on vaccinations, but if you think that they're going to come to our side, you've got another thing coming. Guys, we are in for an absolute fight, and it's time to proselytize our truth. A caller the other night said we shouldn't be proselytizing. That's all we should be doing. First Amendment, First Amendment, First Amendment, First Amendment, free speech, free speech, free speech. The problem with Uncle BLM is they don't understand their real enemy. They believe their enemy are the cops. They believe their enemies are the restaurant. Now, thank God they're lashing out. They seem to be lashing out at the mayor, at the governor, so on, etc. I hope that sustains. But the restaurant isn't your enemy. The NYPD are not your enemy. Uncle BLM, the people that you vote for, is your enemy. This is Carl Jackson in for Larry Elder. We'll be back.
Have you ever thought of going to seminary?
Billy Graham.
Gloria a Dios, hermano. ¿Quién está listo para ser transformado por el poder de su palabra?
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
The Democratic Party somehow has convinced black people that they're the good guys. Never mind the skanky history of the Democratic Party. That was a party of slavery. There is a whole big cottage industry for racism. If racism went away, a lot of people would be unemployed.
The mob during the Minneapolis riots following the death of George Floyd. A bunch of white thugs, frankly, burning down the city's traditional black and Asian business district.
They're racist, racist, racist. Everything's racist.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
Tesla was a genius. His most amazing discoveries thought to be written in a lost journal. Now, in the right hands, it could revolutionize the 21st century.
If you can stop an earthquake, doesn't that mean you could start one too?
That's why that notebook should never fall into the wrong hands.
There's an old brown battered notebook in my office at work. You have to find it, take it, and keep it hidden at all costs.
If we are to build the superhuman, we must first eliminate those who are flawed.
People are created equally. All of downtown, the high-rises were built on rollers to withstand horizontal shakes. A vertical quake this size could collapse half of downtown.
Shall we stop this thing?
Save the universe!
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
The public would be outraged if they knew the truth.
Why do you think our politicians are not on the sidewalk right now talking to you?
Don't have no respect.
The old wall randomly turns into a guardrail, followed by miles of open border.
Human trafficking.
That journey is extremely dangerous.
The 7-year-old girl died in the desert.
From the country of India.
A great pillar of the community was killed by a man who had been deported at least twice.
This little urn contains the ashes of my son. His dreams cut short forever.
We're so worried about other countries' problems, and we don't even focus on our own.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
I grew up poor, which is even worse than being poor.
Our lunch consisted of whatever my mother could scrape together from the dinner the night before. We would have sandwiches with no meat.
My American dream entailed working hard and making $20,000 a year. But I surpassed that goal and became a corporate CEO. Put in an economic growth plan called 999.
999! We'll all be able to say, free at last! Free at last!
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
The cool thing about being a conservative is that we have the monopoly on truth. It doesn't matter what the topic is. We have the monopoly on truth. We believe in God. We believe in the Constitution. We have the monopoly on truth, and it's time for us to act like it. It's time for us to act like it in all facets of life. It's time for us to act like it in all facets of this political fight that we're heading into 2022. Uncle BLM is a racist organization, but I feel like, just like the left, hey, if we can use them in order to extend or in order to win over win our civil liberties back, then I got to be honest with you, I'm all in. But I do want them to understand who the real enemies are. This is my problem with Uncle BLM. Uncle BLM, one of your real enemies is Al Sharpton. Al Sharpton that constantly tells you you are nobody essentially without him. You are nobody essentially without the race hustlers of the world. You're nobody simply because of the color of your skin. That's what I would call a real enemy. That is what I would call a real sellout to the black community. They also want you to believe, the left does, that all police are out there to hunt you down, to kill you, they want to do all these things to you. But when you look at the stats, nothing could be further from the truth. You have white men that are harmed by cops, killed by cops, unarmed white men killed by cops, and double the amount when we go back to 2019. The thing is, that doesn't fit the narrative. That doesn't fit the narrative. So you're not going to see a lot of that on television. You're not going to hear about that news reported oftentimes. But that's the truth. The cops are not your enemies. Actually, the cops many times are your friends. Are you going to run into a rogue cop? Is there going to be a back? Of course there is. Just like there's going to be a rogue whomever. Think of any job, any career. There's always going to be some type of bad apple. But that one person, you can't look at one person and say this entire industry, this entire profession are totally evil, because cops ultimately protect you. Look at the city of Chicago. Mayor Lightfoot cut the budget of cops, tens of millions of dollars, and now she's reneging on that because Chicago, which was already in shambles, is even further in shambles. So who are your real enemies? Who are your real enemies? I think this is very important. This is very important to understand. When you look at the border crisis, we'll play some audio clips for you again. You look at Joe Biden. You look at Joe Biden bringing in and allowing these illegal aliens to come into this country. What are these illegal aliens going to do? More than likely, illegal aliens are going to go into, ultimately, I would imagine, they're going to go into lower income areas. They're going to go into blue areas. I understand they're shipping them all across the country. I understand there's some that's been found in other border cities around Texas. But ultimately, they're going to hurt you. As a result of illegal immigration, what you're going to start experiencing, Uncle BLM, is you're going to experience higher rent prices. You're going to have to compete for jobs. You want to, start off, you're going to have to start off with lower wage jobs. Once you get into the workforce, you're going to have to compete with illegal aliens. The problem is you guys don't know your real enemy. Your real enemy is the Democrat Party, and you continue to vote for them. And I hate to make this a Democrat-Republican thing, because it's time for you guys to start looking at ideas and principles and values. It's amazing to me. I do want to go on with this story when it comes to Uncle BLM. By the way, the number to call in is 888-971-7243. 888-971-7243. There's a story on there's some audio that the guys are getting together. We'll play with you. We'll play the audio a little later, because I think there's a huge difference of what's happening in Australia and what's happening right here in the United States amongst the protesters, I should say. Let me clarify. So that's amongst the protesters. In Australia, protesters, some of the protesters at least, realize the cops aren't necessarily their enemies. They're enforcing these laws or imposing these laws, or actually they're just doing their job that the government is the cops are doing their job because the government is imposing these mandates upon the protesters, upon the citizens of Australia. And now citizens in Australia are starting to speak up, or they're starting to stand up. They're protesting like crazy. And I got to be honest with you, that's a good thing. But they understand who their enemy is. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, Black Lives Matter doesn't. But again, for the sake of freedom, for the sake of civil liberties, I'm willing to go with this. This lady, Shavonna Newsom of Uncle BLM, says, we're putting this city on notice that your mandate will not be another racist social distance practice. Black people are not going to stand by, or you will see another uprising, and that is not a threat, she says. That is a promise. The vaccination passport is not a free passport to racism. I love the fact that she's standing up against this vaccine passport. I love that. I love her courage. I admire that. But you mean to tell me the solution is destroying your neighborhoods again? Destroying property damage again? Or destroying property and ruining the price of property in your neighborhood? That makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever. Another one of the women, Black Women's March co-founder Kimberly Bernard, she added, "We are serving notice on the mayor, on the governor, on the restaurant industry that we will not allow for you to use this pandemic, vaccination cards, and masks as another reason to be racist, to put us in prison because there's enough of us in there." Now, here's the problem. Restaurants can't control this. I wish more restaurants would stand up. They can in that sense. They could fight back and they could say, you know what? This is an edict. This isn't a law. We're fighting back. I don't suspect that's going to happen. But I get so sick and tired of the issue always going back to race and the solution going back to violence. And the only people that are ultimately hurt are Black people. Nonetheless, for the sake of ending these vaccine mandates, I guess I'm willing to ride with Uncle BLM. And here's the issue. Biden's approval ratings amongst Blacks is just plummeted. It's plummeted. Not just, it's plummeting all across the board, but it's plummeted amongst Blacks because of this issue. And this is where I think conservatives will get it wrong. Next year, during the election season, Republicans will be called racist again. People like me be called Uncle Tom, sellouts, this and that. It'll be another story. They'll find another George Floyd situation or something like that. And what'll happen is, I believe these Uncle BLM protesters will go right back to the Democrat Party. The only way that we're going to be able to persuade some of them is to proselytize. We own the monopoly on truth. When we come back from the break, I'm going to talk to you about these hypocrites, Biden, that owes $500,000. This guy, Andrew, or Chris Cuomo, grabbing booty. All of these frauds on the border. We're going to talk about all of these frauds. We have the monopoly of truth. We'll talk about it next. I don't know if that.
Streaming on Salem Now.
The public would be outraged if they knew the truth.
Why do you think our politicians are not on the sidewalk right now talking to you?
Don't have no respect.
The old wall randomly turns into a guardrail, followed by miles of open border.
Human trafficking.
That journey is extremely dangerous.
The 7-year-old girl died in the desert.
From the country of India.
A great pillar of the community was killed by a man who had been deported at least twice.
This little urn contains the ashes of my son. His dreams cut short forever.
We're so worried about other countries' problems, and we don't even focus on our own.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
This is a story of how 1 million children were placed with local foster families. Parents from all walks of life share their stories of overcoming the one-child policy by taking in orphans.
At a time where there's so much negativity and cynicism, here's proof that a single leap of faith can change the world.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
This is a story of how 1 million children were placed with local foster families through an unlikely alliance between the Chinese government and a British footballer. Parents from all walks of life share their stories of overcoming the one-child policy by taking in orphans. With unprecedented access across the country, this is a unique insight into the lives of the 90s orphans now driving the 21st century's fastest growing economy.
This story needs to be told across the world. At a time where there's so much negativity and cynicism, here's proof that a single leap of faith can change the world.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
You're out of your mind if you think this family can pick you up every time you fall.
Every time I take one step forward, seems like I fall. Boy, Dylan Wright came in this morning. He wants to fight you. Never say die, gonna give it all. This is your opportunity to get back on your feet. This is my time. Won't quit, I'll just be. You gotta know who it is you're fighting for. That's the fight, Bo.
I can't believe I'm saying it, that Bo Lawson can go 10 years without a competitive fight, and here he is going toe-to-toe with the world champion. No one expected this out of him.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to Salem.
The call in to the relieffactor.com studio is 888-971-7243, 888-971-7243. Conservatives have a monopoly of truth when it comes to America. We have the monopoly on the truth. When it comes to the Constitution, when it comes to truth in general, when it comes to God, our Judeo-Christian value system, we have the monopoly on the truth. It's time for us to proselytize it. It's time for us to talk about it. It's time for us to not be afraid to say so. Let me give you an example. New Hunter Biden emails tout access to White House. So here's the latest. Here's what we've known all along because we've had the monopoly on truth. We've just got to keep speaking this stuff. 2 new emails concerning Hunter Biden appeared to show business associates of the president's son touting his access to the White House as well as to the highest level of the Chinese government. The emails obtained by Insider concern a potential Libya deal in 2015 that appears to have never happened. The messages are not connected to previously revealed emails from Hunter Biden's laptop. The first email is dated January 28, 2015, and that was an exchange between 2 Democratic donors, Sam Wahari and Sheikh Mohammed al-Rabani, who were both involved in the Libya project, which involved billions in Libyan assets that the Obama administration froze. Per phone conversation, I met with number 2, son. He wants $2 per year retainer success fees. He wants to hire his own people. It can be close circle, and I'm quoting from these guys. It can be close circle of people for confidentiality. His dad is deciding to run or not. Wahari wrote, speaking about Hunter Biden, that's $2 per year retainer, referred to the $2 million a year Hunter Biden had requested. His father was then vice president. His positives are he is chairman. These are the guys speaking in the email. This is from them. His positives are he is chairman of UN World Food Program, son of number 2, who has Libya file, access to state, treasury, business partner, Secretary of State, John Forbes, Kerry, son, and since he travels with dad, he is connected everywhere in Europe and Asia where MQ, Muammar Gaddafi, and LIA, the Libya Investment Authority, had money frozen. He said he has access to the highest level in PRC, China. He can help there. Warari continued. His negatives are that he is a alcoholic, drug addict, kicked out of U.S. Army for cocaine, chasing low-class hookers, constantly needs money, liquidity problems, and many more headaches. The email concludes by saying they should meet to decide the next steps. So Hunter Biden was actually discharged from the Navy Reserve, not the Army, and it did not confirm that the reason was that he tested positive for cocaine. Whatever. Basically, here's the deal. We knew the truth. We knew these guys were corrupt. We know these guys are corrupt as all get out. We know the truth. Speak it. Speak it. Conservatives own a monopoly on truth when it comes to our border. What are the only reasons that people should be crossing our borders? The reasons are simple. Speak it. Race, religion. If you're being persecuted every year, do you guys understand? We are the most gracious, compassionate country in the world. And I'm sick and tired of people saying otherwise. We are the greatest, most compassionate country in the entire world. We allow legal immigrants to come in, approximately 1 million per year, legally. Now we're being overrun by these people that don't appreciate us. And I think they need to leave. I think they need to be repatriated. I think they need to go bye-bye. Every year people come to the U.S. and they seek protection because they have suffered, quote-unquote, persecution or fear that they will suffer persecution due to either race, religion, their nationality, their membership in a particular social or religious group, or because of their political opinion. A lot of these people that are coming from Haiti, quite frankly, are coming here. They had a decent life in Brazil and Chile, but they're coming here because they believe they can seek an even better life. I'm sorry. That doesn't meet the criteria. And it's time for us to start speaking up and saying these people have got to go. You're not a racist. I'm not a racist. I like the rule of law. You like the rule of law. We have the monopoly on truth. Let's proselytize it. This is Carl Jackson in for Larry Elder. We'll be back.
This is why we're fighting for the soul of America.
You should be able to share ideas without fear of being fired from your job or shouted down.
You are not to be heard. This is one of the few things we have no precedent for in the United States.
You have the right to remain silent.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Man, I miss my father, and I want him to be here with me, but he's not.
We all had something in common. A lot of us were miserable. We had no fathers in our lives.
This is how I began the life of crime.
I desired to have a father who would tell me that what I did was wrong.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Trending now on The Charlie Kirk Show.
How is it possible that Joe Biden let this happen? Was this intentional? Did he want our enemies to have it? It's hard to believe that incompetence could possibly let this happen. Jake Sullivan, the highly unimpressive person who's never done anything useful in his life, says we don't have a complete picture, obviously, of where every article of defense materials has gone, but certainly a fair amount of it has fallen into the hands of the Taliban. And obviously, we don't have a sense that we're going to be ready to hand it over to us at the airport. The Taliban now has the 26th largest air force in the world with 0 pilots. 600,000 weapons, 75,000 vehicles, 200 total aircraft, and $85 billion in total weapons. 110 helicopters, 60 transportation cargo airplanes, 20 light attack airplanes, and 18 intelligence, reconnaissance, and surveillance airplanes. The Taliban now has more Black Hawk helicopters than Australia. And this is all on our government. This is all on Joe Biden, who now wants praise, who says this was a perfect withdrawal. Are you kidding me? Cut 59, Jen Psaki says that the Afghanistan effort is a success. It's on track to be the largest airlift in U.S. history.
Say that this is now on track, Peter, to be the largest airlift in U.S. history. And that is bringing American citizens out. It is bringing our Afghan partners out. It is bringing allies out. So no, I would not say that is anything but a success.
Anything but a success.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
I would like my fellow conservatives, the majority of whom wanted to leave Afghanistan, to be as intellectually honest as I demand the left is. You must say, I am for the Taliban taking over Afghanistan. If you do not say that, you are a conservative who is not being honest. You cannot say, I am for leaving Afghanistan, but I am against the Taliban taking over Afghanistan. Then you are deluding yourself, and a conservative should never do that. That should be the monopoly of the left. It's equivalent to men give birth, okay? To deny that the Taliban, that you are giving Afghanistan over to the Taliban if you leave.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today.
We have the monopoly on truth. Honestly, I don't know how illegal immigrants take it. All the money that you guys should be asking for a refund. All of the money that legal immigrants have spent coming to these United States, understanding the blessings of becoming a U.S. citizen. And all of a sudden, you have all of these people that the Biden administration seemed to just be letting in. Now, here's one of the things that did happen. Senator Ted Cruz had to have forgotten, man. He sent me this actually a while ago, and I was reading through it. But Ted Cruz said, listen, what was happening on the border, and the border is empty now because they sent a few back, but the vast majority are now in the interior of the United States. Remember what I told you the other day. All the left does is they create the crisis. They blame us, conservatives, for the crisis or try to distract from the crisis, and they continue with the crisis. So now all of these people are vanished. They're gone. But now we're going to start experiencing some of the crisis within the interior of the United States of America. This is exactly what they do. This is what they intended to do. Ted Cruz was saying, Senator Ted Cruz, that what was happening was once some of the Haitians were sent back to Haiti. Now, mind you, they were coming from places in South America. A lot of these people were coming from Brazil. A lot of them were coming from Chile. So they didn't want to go back to Haiti. Many of them had left after the 2010 earthquake, and they were like, no, I don't want to go back to hell. So those that did arrive back to Haiti, if you will, they called their homies and said, listen. They just took us back to Haiti, and that's why all of or many of the Haitians that were sitting underneath this bridge and living and squatting underneath this bridge on the Rio Grande were like, okay, well, we're not, that's not happening to us, and they started raising a ruckus. They started hijacking buses. They wanted to get out of there, but that's part of the reason, the reason why they did it. Is because the Biden administration is so incompetent, they weren't even taking people back to their proper location. So they weren't taking the Haitians back to Haiti. You guys heard earlier in this week, Jorge Bonilla said, listen, there's another caravan that was gathering, so it may be that another 15 or 20,000 are going to come. What are we going to do then? I suspect the same. But guys, we have the monopoly on truth. We just have to spread it. America is a great place to live. America is a great place to be. There's plenty of reasons why America is exceptional. But let me talk to you a little bit more about these phonies. So again, Biden could owe as much as $500,000 in back taxes. This coming from the same man who says, tax and spend, tax and spend. People have to pay their fair share. Rich people have to pay their fair share. Never mind the fact that 1%, less than 1% of New Yorkers pay over 41% of the tax bill, or over 40%, of the tax bill in New York. That's not enough. This is all they know. This is their mantra. But this phony, here's what this phony in the White House is doing. Republicans say a new nonpartisan report indicates that Biden improperly avoided paying Medicare taxes right before he took office. This raises eyebrows and the possibility that he owes the IRS as much as $500,000 in back taxes. Man, if they knew how much money this guy had offshore, I'm sure he'd owe much more than that. Biden is leading the Democratic push for the $3.5 trillion bill. And by the way, I've been telling you guys, listen, here's what's going to happen to you. You have to understand how inflation works. You have to understand it. I know for some anyway, you have to understand how inflation works. It is too many dollars chasing too few assets. It's just like we have now. We have this supply chain shortage. Some of us have money to spend, right? But there's this supply chain shortage. There's a limited supply of things, so you have to pay a buttload of money for it. It's as simple as that. This is happening all across the country. Now, back in 2000, the average household debt from the federal government, caused by the federal government, as far as inflation is concerned, was about 30 grand, give or take, all right? And then that jumped up 10 years later or so, and it was about, 70, 78, 79 grand, and I'm going from memory here. And then later on, it was approximately 178. Actually, right now, it stands at about 178 grand. Somewhere around there, over 170 grand. So basically what I'm telling you, those are unseen taxes. Those are taxes somehow, some way you're going to pay. Somehow, some way, whether it's, it's a raise in, consumer prices, whether you go to the grocery store, when you're buying gas, whatever it may be. But listen to this. If the Democrats, and they're trying to scare Republicans into going along with this government shutdown and, pass the raise the debt limit and all that. Nope. Republicans don't do anything. Democrats run the show. They have the White House. They have the House. They have the Senate. If they want to raise the debt limit and put us further into debt, let that be on them, because this is absolute chaos and nonsense. But now, if they pass this bill, then the federal debt, household federal debt for every single one of us, approximately 288 grand. See, so they tell you they're helping you out, but they're not helping you out. The only way government has money is to take money from you. The only money they have to spend is when they spend your money. So if they pass this bill, 288 grand, you won't even get to live in the nice new house, but you'll pay 288 grand. Meanwhile, they'll be distributing welfare to make you feel good, to make you look good. And then you have this hypocrite in the White House that's talking about tax the rich, tax the rich, tax the rich. And as far as we know, he owes at least $500,000. What a phony, what a fraud. If the people in the media were honest, they would be on this like white on rice. But they're not, because the mainstream media are complete and utter frauds. This is Carl Jackson in for Larry Elder. We'll be back with your calls and more sound bites.
Carl Jackson will be back on the Larry Elder
Show. Trending now on the Charlie Kirk Show.
Barack Hussein Obama announces a trade. Now, it's not a trade for Brett Favre from the Falcons to the Packers. It wasn't a trade of Bill Russell to some no-namers. It wasn't a trade of some musical for Babe Ruth. No. It was a trade for the terrorist all-star team from Gitmo, 5 of them, the Fab Five, the killers, for a traitor. Many of you will now remember this quickly. Some of you that are younger that are listening have no memory of this. This was the famous Bo Bergdahl for Gitmo trade that happened in May of 2014.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today.
Man, I miss my father, and I want him to be here with me, but he's not.
We all had something in common. A lot of us were miserable. We had no fathers in our lives.
This is how I began the life of crime.
I desired to have a father who would tell me that what I did was wrong.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
Fiance? No, I can't be your fiance.
You're gonna go. You're gonna be my fiance, and you're gonna be the most amazing, fascinating, most successful man ever. We're only gonna be there for a few hours, eat dinner, and I promise we'll have the best breakup of all time.
My baby, my princess. Oh, booyah!
Beat a little bit.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
The only time you can come to Christ, when the Spirit of God comes.
Have you ever thought of going to seminary?
Billy Graham.
Gloria a Dios, hermanos.
¿Quién está listo para ser transformado por el poder de su palabra?
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
All right, welcome back to the Larry Elder Show. The number to call in, 888-971-7243. Let me talk to you about Cry Macho. Warner Brothers Pictures presents Cry Macho. From legendary director Clint Eastwood comes a story of being lost and found. Eastwood returns as a one-time rodeo star and a washed-up horse breeder who takes a job to bring back a man's young son home from Mexico. The unlikely pair face an unexpectedly challenging journey. The only road home is through redemption. See it in theaters and on HBO Max for 31 days. It's now playing, rated PG-13. May be unsuitable for audiences 13 and under. That's Cry Macho. Listen, guys, go check out the film. You want to go see what it's like to be a real man. And look at this. The guy is a horse breeder. We need to support horse breeders because our police officers or border patrol agents that are riding horses on the border right now are getting slaughtered and vilified by the Biden administration when they know doggone well that those horses were not, or the border patrol agents on the horses weren't whipping anybody. We'll play more audio on that. Maxine Williams talking about it's worse than slavery. I mean, the fact that this lady can say stuff like that and not be vilified in media is just absolutely disgusting to me. But it's sad. She's a race hustler. She's going to do whatever she has to do to get the votes that she needs. That's Maxine Waters for you. Let's take a call real quick. Let's go to Heidi in Tampa, Florida. Heidi, welcome to the Larry Elder Show. You've got the mic.
Thank you. Yes, my message is, we came, my family and I, over 50 years ago. We had to have letters of recommendation, letters of good character, letters of good health. We had to have x-rays. We had to have a letter that says we're in good health. We didn't have, tuberculosis or head lice or any disease that's disgusting.
Right.
We were supposed to be an educated people. My mom was a doctor. My little sister and I, we finished our high school. She's a professional. I'm a professional. We love this land. This land is made by God, from God, for us. But we have to be clean, and we have to be correct, and we have to follow the law.
You're absolutely right.
To appreciate what this is. Because I think now a lot of leaders on the streets, because people are not educated to put the trash where it belongs. That's the least to say.
Heidi, we're running. Heidi, I thank you for the call. We're running out of time, but I'm glad you called in because, listen, we can't cheapen the American experience. We shouldn't cheapen it.
Right.
Legal immigration, no illegal immigration, build a border wall. Right. We'll be back with Mark Walters of Armed American Radio.
Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
I had with my producer prior to coming on just now, I said that either of my children could have done better, and then he said, your grandchildren, who are 10 and 5. It's hard to imagine. I think the 10-year-old could have managed it better. However, I do want to say something. I was listening to Tucker Carlson, for whom I have great respect, and he had what is the woman's name again? Lara Logan, for whom I also have great respect. And she was on, and she was saying, opposing the way in which we exited or are exiting Afghanistan does not mean that one opposes exiting Afghanistan. They're two separate issues. Well, they are. They are two separate issues. However, I would like my fellow conservatives, the majority of whom wanted to leave Afghanistan, to be as intellectually honest as I demand the left is. You must say, I am for the Taliban taking over Afghanistan. If you do not say that, you are a conservative who is not being honest. You cannot say, I am for leaving Afghanistan, but I am against the Taliban taking over Afghanistan. Then you are deluding yourself, and a conservative should never do that. That should be the monopoly of the left. It's equivalent to men give birth. Okay?
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Mike Gallagher Show.
Vice President Kamala Harris is learning the hard way you can run, but you can't hide over your administration's disaster in Afghanistan. There she is over in Singapore being asked about this crisis. Americans being stranded, as Newt Gingrich put it this week. We've surrendered to the Taliban, essentially, and now we're trying to negotiate the terms of the surrender. And Politico national security reporter Alex Ward released leaked U.S. State Department evacuation numbers from Kabul, Afghanistan. According to Ward, we evacuated a total of 6,916 people from the country. Of those, only 483 were Americans. The vast majority of evacuees were Afghan nationals. So we're airlifting Afghan nationals out of Afghanistan which leads the White House press secretary to describe that as a complete success. I mean, unreal. I want you to hear Jen Psaki. This is pretty amazing. Cut number 7. Responding to Peter Doocy, who is her constant foil. This is a success?
Is there any concern that maybe trying to reach this deadline and get everybody out, mistakes are being made now that there is a report that at least one of the Afghans evacuated to Qatar has suspected ISIS ties?
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on The Charlie Kirk Show.
The Arizona Supreme Court said Tuesday that contractors hired by the state Senate to conduct the audit would not need to release the records from their review by next week. This is only a temporary delay, is what we're being told. A left-wing watchdog group, American Oversight, took its record request to the court and emerged victorious when the Arizona Court of Appeals ruled that Cyber Ninjas, the Florida-based firm leading the audit, was subject to state public records law because it was performing a core government function. Arizona President Karen Fann argued the records should not be publicly released because they're maintained by private contractors, so legislative immunity applies to the documents. It is ordered extending the stay to enable the court to fully consider the issues raised in the petition for review. American Oversight's suit is not the only one leveled against the Arizona Senate. The Phoenix-based Arizona Republic newspaper sued the chamber and Cyber Ninjas on June 30th for access to the host of audit records under the same public records law. Of course, the Arizona Republic is suing. I mean, why would they be reporting? They would be suing people to try to stop the audit. The audit results are coming out soon, despite all of these legal challenges against it. We don't know what it's going to say, but I could tell you that people are very nervous that what might be implemented from, what actually might be exposed from these audit results are going to be significant, very significant. We know that there were 72,000 more mail-in ballots received than were sent out. We know that this election was interfered with in many different ways, from the Center for Technology of Civic Life, from Mark Zuckerberg's money, and many other people.
Keep up with what's trending.
Man, I miss my father, and I want him to be here with me, but he's not.
We all had something in common. A lot of us were miserable. We had no fathers in our lives.
This is how I began the life of crime.
I desired to have a father who would tell me that what I did was wrong.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
Fiance? No, I can't be your fiance.
You're gonna go. You're gonna be my fiance, and you're gonna be the most amazing, fascinating, most successful man ever. We're only gonna be there for a few hours, eat dinner, and I promise we'll have the best breakup of all time.
My baby, my princess. Oh, booyah!
Beat a little bit. Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Welcome back to the Larry Elder Show. This is your special guest host, Carl Jackson, filling in for the great Eldersky. The number to call in to the ReliefFactor.com studio is 888-971-7243. That's 888-971-7243. Joining me on the line right now is Mark Walters of Armed American Radio. Mark Walters, welcome back to the Larry Elder Show.
Hey, thanks for having me. I love the applause.
There's a crowd behind me, Mark. There's a crowd behind me.
I love it. How you doing? Good to talk with you, Carl, as always.
All right. Listen, Mark, a couple of things. For one, I want to talk about the shooting that occurred in Kroger, and now this shooter has been identified here. Let me look that up. I'm sorry. Well, the shooter, okay, so the shooter was a store vendor. He came back and apparently murdered, 29 years old, murdered one woman, and I believe,
yes.
What did he injure, 12 or 12 others or so?
Yeah, I think the final count that I saw is the numbers that you just gave, Carl. He wounded 12, killed one, and from what I understand, he was a third-party vendor, somebody that either delivered to or worked with outside somehow Kroger's. Thank God it wasn't 12 dead, is all I can say.
Matter of fact, I have it here, thanks to Sean. The gunman who opened fire at Kroger supermarket in Tennessee has been identified as a 29-year-old man who worked for Kroger. Yeah, you're right. As a third-party vendor, one person was killed in the Thursday afternoon deadly shooting at the store just outside Memphis, and the shooter died of an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound, police said. So, man, this is a sad story, Mark. But I gotta tell you, and I don't want to minimize this, but this is why I feel like we need to always be ready when it comes to our Second Amendment rights. Obviously, the Second Amendment is to protect us against a tyrannical government, but you never know. Today's society, things are just so crazy. You just never know when you're going to run into a situation like this at Kroger. Your response?
You're spot on. I mean, look, I started carrying a gun years ago, Carl. You know my story. And it was because of an attempted carjacking against me in November of 2002 when my daughter was 2 weeks old. And I used to say then, and I tell this story now because it's relevant every day of my life, that at that particular point in my life, I hadn't yet made a decision to carry a firearm with me everywhere I went all the time. So a criminal had a 50-50 shot of running into an armed victim if they decided to pick on me on any given day. And after that event happened to me in Tampa, Florida, I carry a firearm with me everywhere I go. And the need and the necessity to do so, I feel, even though I do it every day anyway, more so today than ever before. It's a different place, as much as I hate to say it, but it's a different place. America, I'm talking about. And I can't imagine walking outside when I have the tool necessary to defend myself at my disposal. Why wouldn't I carry it? And I want to let your audience know this, that I was on a panel on Fox News years ago, and we were talking about, the killing down in Texas, for example, years ago, the Luby's Cafeteria. When on that panel, we were talking with Susanna Hupp, who was next to me. We were on the Stossel show. And John Stossel leaned over me and said to Susanna Hupp, who lost her parents that day in that killing, in her car, in her vehicle outside was her legal firearm in Texas. And he asked her, if you had your gun on you that day, would things have changed? And her response to this day is so telling. She looked right at John Stossel and at the camera and said, I don't know, but I know it would have changed the odds. So why wouldn't you have a defensive tool on you that can change the odds? Why wouldn't you do that? And I ask your listeners to think about that.
Mark, and guns are vilified. I love what you're doing now with American Armed Radio, or Armed American Radio, I'm sorry. And, I mean, you tell stories all the time of people that are defending life with guns, and that is extremely people people that criminals that use guns in order to harm people. Sadly, and a woman by the name of Olivia King. This lady had two sons in the military as well. I mean, just unbelievably sad story. But I'm one of these people as well. I carry everywhere I go. I've been the victim of a couple of violent crimes, and I got to tell you guys in the listening audience, it is not fun. And when I was in LA, Mark, and I had a different mentality, guns are bad. But then, I come to Florida and people are carrying guns everywhere, and I'm like, this is crazy. I thought I would be killed or lynched here, but no, people are more free, and people are actually respectful. They're safe. It's a safer area as a result, a safer state as a result of that. Yeah. But I'm tired of guns being vilified to such a point where people can't go into a place like this. And sadly, I just believe we live in times that are so evil. You almost have to expect stuff like this because people are going nuts. There's copycats out there.
Do.
There's people that are just immoral.
You do. Listen, it's prudent to think about what can happen to me today. We go through our lives every single day with blinders on. It's easy to do. We sit around, we live in America, this mentality, that doesn't happen to me. I live in a nice neighborhood, Carl. I live in a gated community. Nothing bad can happen to me. That's false. That's not true. And it's a false sense of security. Because when you go out, I don't care where you live. I don't care if you ever cross the proverbial other side of the tracks. It doesn't matter. Because evil exists. We have to understand, there's a couple basic premises here. Evil exists. And if you walk around every day with blinders on, and this is not being paranoid, this is just being pragmatic, this is being realistic. If you walk around every day thinking nothing bad will happen to me, I'm going to promise you that something bad will happen to you one day. You ever heard, the old proverb, don't walk around New York City and hold your cameras up looking at all the cameras. You're going to give yourself away as a tourist. So what? Well, what they're telling you is you're going to become a victim. That's what they're saying to you. Don't walk around looking like a tourist. You might get mugged. The point that I'm trying to make is that evil exists everywhere, and it's not paranoid to think and to be aware of your surroundings. That's just being responsible. You are responsible for your own safety, the safety of your loved ones, your family, your kids that are with you. Okay? And we get caught up in this thing that, it can't happen to me. We go outside, we don't think about it, and eventually evil will hit you. And just what you said, it's frightening. Let me tell you something. When those two individuals turned their attention towards me when they couldn't get into the other vehicle, it was the most frightening thing that ever happened to me. I thought to myself, my God, what's happening? All I did was stop at a traffic light.
Right.
Fortunately, I was armed. I was able to draw my firearm. I never had to fire a shot. And it was amazing how Gaston Glock's invention worked for me. It stopped the two people from coming any closer to me, and I never had to fire a shot. They left the scene. The woman who they were originally trying to harm went home that day. I went home alive that day. Those two miscreants went home alive that day. And my daughter, and here's the end result of my going home alive that day. My 2-week-old daughter still has her father. She will be 19 in November. Just started college. My son, 2 years later, would be born. And my wife didn't wind up a young widow simply because I had a firearm that day. Now, let's couple that with guns are bad, guns are bad, guns are bad. Listeners, ask yourself this question. We all see the fake news all day. All you see is guns are bad, guns are bad, guns are bad, guns are bad. Imagine if the narrative changed and they told these stories every day on the nightly news. A 71-year-old woman's 12-year-old grandson used a firearm to save her life from a home invader today.
Mark, we got
and
about 20
and on and on.
We got about 20 seconds before the break, so let's talk about some of those stories on the other side, as well as the border crisis. I want to touch on that with you as well. This is Carl Jackson in for Larry Elder. My guest here is Mark Walters of Armed American Radio. We'll be back in a few.
The Democratic Party somehow has convinced black people that they're the good guys. Never mind the skanky history of the Democratic Party. That was a party of slavery. There is a whole big cottage industry for racism. If racism went away, a lot of people would be unemployed.
The mob during the Minneapolis riots following the death of George Floyd. A bunch of white thugs, frankly,
burning down the city's traditional black and Asian business districts.
They're racist. Everything's racist.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
Tesla was a genius. His most amazing discoveries thought to be written in a lost journal. Now, in the right hands, it could revolutionize the 21st century.
If you can stop an earthquake, doesn't that mean you could start one too?
That's why that notebook should never fall into the wrong hands.
There's an old brown battered notebook in my office at work. You have to find it, take it, and keep it hidden at all costs.
If we are to build the superhuman, we must first eliminate those who are flawed.
People are created equally. All of downtown, the high-rises were built on rollers to withstand horizontal shakes. A vertical quake this size could collapse half of downtown.
Shall we stop this thing?
Save the universe!
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
The public would be outraged if they knew the truth.
Why do you think our politicians are not on the sidewalk right now talking to you?
Don't have no respect.
The old wall randomly turns into a guardrail, followed by miles of open border. Human trafficking gone.
That journey is extremely dangerous.
The 7-year-old girl died in the desert.
From the country of India.
A great pillar of the community was killed by a man who had been deported at least twice.
This little urn contains the ashes of my son. His dreams cut short forever.
We're so worried about other countries' problems, and we don't even focus on our own.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
I grew up poor, which is even worse than being poor.
Our lunch consisted of whatever my mother could scrape together from the dinner the night before. We would have sandwiches with no meat.
My American dream entailed working hard and making $20,000 a year. But I surpassed that goal and became a corporate CEO. Put in an economic growth plan called 999.
999!
We'll all be able to say, free at last, free at last.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Hey, welcome back to the Larry Elder Show. That was especially for you, Mark Walters, straight up from Sean McConnell. I think the best guy, best audio engineer in the biz. Anyway, listen, this is okay. So let me ask you to share a couple of stories of good gun uses, because we never get that information. And the truth of the matter is there are far more good gun uses where a gun is used to stop a crime, to deter a crime, save a life. And it happens every day. And it happens. The numbers are so much more greater than crime statistics. It's not even funny, Mark. And I also want to get your take on this. I'm not sure if you heard, but Biden is going to be visiting Chicago next week, but not for the reasons I think you and I would like him to visit Chicago. I want him to talk about the crime. He's going to be talking about vaccine mandates, but I'm far more concerned about bullets in Chicago than I am jabs, vaccine jabs.
So is his Secret Service detail, but they won't tell you that.
You're absolutely right.
Look, he wants to talk about vaccines. Let's talk about the fact that more minority children have been killed in Chicago via gun violence, to use their own terms, than have died across this country in the last year and a half from COVID. Okay? Those are legitimate numbers. But I digress on that. That's a whole different show. Let me give you one gun use, defensive gun use, out of the minute. I've written 2 books about this, Lessons from Armed America, Lessons from Unarmed America. And as you know, I've talked about this on my national radio broadcasts now for near 13 years. One of my favorite of these defensive gun uses brings everything into the fold. It brings race. It brings everything they don't want to talk about into the mix, and it is proof positive why they don't want to talk about it. It's why we don't hear these stories. And, Carl, you will probably remember this because down in the old stomping grounds in Florida a couple years ago, there was a Lee County deputy. For those of you who might not know where that is, that's the Fort Myers area. And there was a Lee County deputy who stopped an individual on the side of the highway off of Interstate 75, pulled off of an exit ramp, in broad daylight, 5 o'clock, rush hour traffic, cars flying by. The individual attacked the officer, got the better of the officer, had the deputy on his back on the side of a road. People were driving by, those that watched stopped and began filming this. They began filming this with their phones. It's just how pathetic we are today with these evil inventions. This individual is fighting for his life. It is a black individual. It is a white cop. The black perp has got the cop on his back. He's beating him within an inch of his life, and no one is assisting the officer when finally an individual with a Florida concealed carry permit says, I can't let this happen, and goes to the aid of the deputy. As he's approaching the deputy sees him and sees that the individual has a gun drawn and begins yelling to the individual, shoot him. He's trying to get my gun. He's going to kill me. When the individual fires and shoots the guy somewhere up in the chest, it did not stop the attack. The officer began yelling, continue to shoot him, when the individual shot the man in the head and killed him and saved that deputy's life. The individual who shot the man was a black man with a concealed carry permit, saving a white officer from a black individual who was killing him, trying to take his gun to kill him on the side of the road, while the rest of us stood around and filmed it. Now, the individual never made the ABC, NBC, So You Can CBS News. This is one of the most compelling human interest stories, not only of that day, but still. And the mainstream press never covered it. The individual who saved that officer's life was awarded the highest what do they call the award? What he got? Well, I forget what they specifically called it, but he was awarded the highest civilian honor award that he could have gotten from the city and from the county and from the sheriff's office down there in Lee County, saving this deputy's life. I can promise you the deputy's mother, father, wife, children were thrilled that an individual citizen had a lawfully carried firearm that day and saved their brother, their son, their husband, their spouse,
obviously,
their father.
I mean, it's amazing. These stories happen all the time. I see a caller that's on that says he disagrees. Self-defense is rare. This caller obviously, listen, there are gun stats out there where literally, and Mark, help me out, where there's, several hundred, any estimates of literally 700 or several 100,000 to upwards of a couple of million gun stops annually that are never reported.
Obama's own Department of Justice found, they tried to scale it back. They found about 180,000 on the low end. And, of course, the estimates go up from Gary Kleck's study up to 2.5 million. But to suggest that it's rare, the caller, if you're listening, you got your head in the sand. You can go to individual newspapers across this country and read self-defense shootings every single day. They make local news. They make local papers, but they never make the national news. And the point that I'm trying to make is that if they did, that narrative would change the way people think about firearms in this country. And I hate bumper sticker logic until bumper sticker logic makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But if 100 million plus American lawful gun owners were a problem, you'd already know it, caller.
Yeah.
You have to think about this in the macro sense. This country has over 100 plus million lawfully owned firearm owners. Lawfully owned. Hundreds of millions of guns in the hands of over 100 million Americans. So to suggest, because we know where crime occurs. We know where crime occurs in the city of Chicago. We know what neighborhoods. We know what gangs. The cops have an idea. They know what's happening. They know. And we know it's happening in Democrat-controlled cities. It's atrocious. I've been reporting these numbers for over a decade, almost a decade and a half. I report the numbers on the weekend every Sunday, and I'm going to do it again Sunday on my Sunday program coming up national on 250 radio stations. We're going to tell you just how many people were shot and killed in Chicago. The vast majority of that crime is black-on-black gang violence. And yes, self-defense shootings occur every single day in cities across this country. And I will give the caller this. We don't have an exact number because there isn't an exact database. But what I can tell you is you can look at the FBI statistics in the Uniform Crime Report, which we don't have time to go into here, and you will see exactly what the FBI has as far as statistics are concerned.
Yeah, I literally did an hour on my local show on this one time, and the statistics were phenomenal. And it was during the Obama era. I did it specifically during that era because there's plenty of people out there that don't believe it because the mainstream news media just never talks about it. And I'm like, man, you know, the only time they talk about guns is Chicago, this or that, when criminals have guns. But metal is not moral. It isn't the guns issue. It's whomever has the gun that's doing the good deed or the bad deed. We got about a minute left, Mark. Comment on that, and then also just tell people where they can find you.
ArmedAmericanRadio.com. My new news division is you can read about all these things and some justified self-defense shootings. ArmedAmericanNews.com. You can listen to me 6 days a week on Armed American Radio, 4 to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday Eastern, 1 to 2 Pacific, and every Sunday, as you know, Carl, you will be on the show this Sunday, 8 to 11 p.m. Eastern, 5 to 8 p.m. Pacific time. Join in the discussion. We'd love to have you there.
All right. Mark Walters of Armed American Radio. Guys, check him out. Listen to his show. And what's the new news site again, Mark? Say that one more time.
Armed American News. Enjoy it. We separate news from opinion. It says right there, this is a news story, this is opinion. So you can get the real dope or you can get the opinion. You get them both.
All right. Mark Walters, thank you, man. Talk to you Sunday. We'll be back in a few. We'll take your calls.
Miss my father, and I want him to be here with me, but he's not.
We all had something in common. A lot of us were miserable. We had no fathers in our lives.
This is how I began the life of crime. I desired to have a father who would tell me that what I did was wrong.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
Fiance? No, I can't be your fiance.
You're gonna go. You're gonna be my fiance, and you're gonna be the most amazing, fascinating, most successful man ever. We're only gonna be there for a few hours, eat dinner, and I promise we'll have the best breakup of all time.
My baby, my princess. Oh, yeah.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
The only time you can come to Christ when the Spirit of God comes.
You ever thought of going to seminary?
Billy Graham.
Gloria a Dios, hermano. ¿Quién está listo para ser transformado por el poder de su palabra?
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
The Democratic Party somehow has convinced black people that they're the good guys. Never mind the skanky history of the Democratic Party. That was a party of slavery. There is a whole big cottage industry for racism. If racism went away, a lot of people would be unemployed.
The mob during the Minneapolis riots following the death of George Floyd. A bunch of white thugs, frankly, burning down the city's traditional black and Asian business district.
They're racist. Everything's racist.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
Tesla was a genius. His most amazing discoveries thought to be written in a lost journal. Now in the right hands, it could revolutionize the 21st century.
jump.
If you can stop an earthquake, doesn't that mean you could start one too?
That's why that notebook should never fall into the wrong hands.
There's an old brown battered notebook in my office at work. You have to find it, take it, and keep it hidden at all costs.
If we are to build the superhuman, we must first eliminate those who are flawed.
People are created equally. All of downtown, the high-rises were built on rollers to withstand horizontal shakes. A vertical quake this size could collapse half of downtown.
Shall we stop this thing?
Save the universe!
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
This is a story of how 1 million children were placed with local foster families. Parents from all walks of life share their stories of overcoming the one-child policy by taking in orphans. At a time where there's so much negativity and cynicism, here's proof that a single leap of faith can change the world.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
All right, welcome back to the Larry Elder Show. I am your special guest host, Carl Jackson, filling in for the great Eldersky. I'm going to get to your calls. As a matter of fact, I have another special guest with me that's joining me in studio, none other than Christopher Hart of the American Adversaries.
Hey, Carl, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, Chris. You see that big old crowd cheering for you?
Is this thing on?
That's how we roll. That's how we roll. Chris will take some calls with me too. Actually, let's go to a call now. Let's go to Brant in Los Angeles, California. Brant, welcome to the Larry Elder Show. You got the mic.
Blessings, Carl. Thank you for your courage to speak truth to Biden's progressive, racist, bigoted, hateful thugs. Bidenista bureaucrats at the AMA, the CDC, the FDA are all screaming, shouting, and spitting how safe and effective their mRNA genocide jabs are, while criminally hiding their unprecedented jab deaths, paralysis, and misery. And I beg all Americans to watch the newest Project Veritas video exposing Taylor Lee. It's a fast-talking, white, pasty-faced Aryan at the FDA.
Brent. Go ahead, Brent.
He wants to use blow darts, drones, and Nazi registries to force Biden's killer jabs into the blood of all black Americans. And I'm thinking, thank God most black Americans still own guns and will use them if these vicious Democrat demons come to their doors.
Yeah, listen, this is, and I appreciate the call, Brent. It's absolutely insane. Listen, this COVID virus, we all know the left has been using COVID in order to garner more power for themselves. That's what they want to do. That's what they intend to do. They intend to reshape America. And by the way, my guest is Christopher Hart of the American Adversaries. Chris, say hello to Larry.
Hey, how you doing, Larry?
Or actually to the crowd, to Larry Elder's audience. So this is Christopher Hart of the American Adversaries.
That's right. You can find us at AmericanAdversaries.com. Hey, Carl, we've been dealing with this just like you have over the last year and a half on air talking about this. By the way, we called Fauci a fraud from the very beginning. When even Sean Hannity was putting him on his show, we were saying, what are you doing? This guy's an absolute fraud. This whole thing has been a fraud. Not the bug itself, but the way it's been approached.
Yep.
By the way, I don't know if you caught the news out of Norway. Norway, hardly a right-wing leaning country, has decided to change how they deal with COVID. They have now classified it as, get this, a normal flu virus.
Yeah, this is, and honestly, this is what it is. This is officially an endemic. We understand this. We know that it's an endemic. As a matter of fact, Chris, let's talk about Governor Ron DeSantis. I was able to see Governor Ron DeSantis yesterday, man, at the Job Creators Network. That guy is presidential, Chris. He is ready. Obviously, we want him to win the governorship again, but he's hired a gentleman that came out of Los Angeles from UCLA, and now they've just introduced this new, basically, executive order DeSantis has that, listen, parents are now going to be able to decide when their child goes back to school if they come in contact with someone from COVID, because this disease isn't killing or harming children. Basically, you have a 0% death rate amongst children, and their ability to be able to infect teachers even is extremely rare.
Yeah, you know, Mark Walters in the earlier part of your show here was talking about how there have been more children killed by gun violence in Chicago this year than the whole the pandemic of children deaths. Here's the thing. The CDC has put out their own statistics, and for a person 20 years old or younger with no COVID treatment has a survivability rate of this virus of 99.99%. That's with zero treatment. And by the way, for a person who's 50 years old with zero treatment, your survivability rate is 99.95%. So we have been sold a bill of goods this whole time. And this so-called death rate is greatly inflated. The actual number of people who have actually died from COVID, not with COVID, is about 10% of the number we're being told. Norway has wised up. How long will it take for us?
Well, the UK has done the same when it comes to children.
That's right. And the vaccine mandates, by the way.
And that's the model that Ron DeSantis is following. He's following the science. He's looking at the studies from Israel. And I just feel so sorry for the states around the country, blue states, blue cities, that are run by people that just seem to want more power. We're coming up on a quick break. This is Carl Jackson sitting in for Larry Elder. My guest is Christopher Hart of the American Adversaries. When we come back, we'll take some of your calls. I see Frank. I see Tim in Texas, and we have plenty more to speak about and audio clips I want to get to. Carl Jackson in for Larry Elder. We'll be right back. An absolute landslide. You made the switch to Pure Talk. You were chained to overpriced unlimited plans from Verizon, AT&T, or T-Mobile, then finally decided to make the switch because you know that Pure Talk saves the average family over $800 a year without having to sacrifice coverage. Friends, if you haven't yet made the switch to Pure Talk, this is the easiest decision you'll make today. You can keep your phone, keep your number, or get huge discounts on the latest iPhones and Androids. Get unlimited talk, text, and 6 gigs of data for just $30 a month. Or if you still want unlimited data, you can get that and still save a fortune. Experience why Pure Talk is the highest rated wireless company by Consumer Affairs, why they're the preferred wireless partner of AMAC. From your cell phone, dial pound 250 and say Larry Elder. You'll save 50% off your first month. That's pound 250. Say Larry Elder. Woo! I didn't. All right.
Streaming on Salem Now.
The Democratic Party somehow has convinced black people that they're the good guys. Never mind the skanky history of the Democratic Party. That was a party of slavery.
He said, listen, I gotta give these niggas enough. Not too much, but enough that I'll have them voting Democrat for the next 200 years.
The race grievance industry would have you believe that blacks get up and think about nothing else except race.
If I tell you this is racist, yeah, I would get you emotional.
There is a whole big cottage industry for racism. If racism went away, a lot of people would be unemployed.
The mob during the Minneapolis riots following the death of George Floyd. A bunch of white thugs, frankly, burning down the city's traditional black and Asian business district.
They're racist. Racism, 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 racism. Everything's racist.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
¿Cuánto queda?
No queda nada. Y lo siento mucho.
And that's the only time you can come to Christ, when the Spirit of God calls you to the cross. Don't you hesitate.
You ever thought of going to seminary?
Madre, Padre, ¿quién está listo para ser transformado por el poder de su palabra?
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
Tesla was a genius. His most amazing discoveries thought to be written in a lost journal. Now, in the right hands, it could revolutionize the 21st century.
You can stop an earthquake. Doesn't that mean you could start one too?
That's why that notebook should never fall into the wrong hands.
Shall we stop this thing?
Save the universe!
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Guest host filling in for the great El Dursky. Remember, guys, it's time to get rid of Verizon, AT&T, or T-Mobile. Make that switch to Pure Talk. Pure Talk is simply smarter wireless. In studio with me is Christopher Hart of the American Adversaries. Christopher Hart gave me my start here in radio in Orlando. He's the big dog on Drive Time here, Drive Time Afternoons. Chris Hart, welcome back to the Larry Elder Show.
Hey, thanks, Carl. We really appreciate it, you and everything that you've done for the station here and what you're doing now for Larry Elder. It is awesome.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. All right, Chris, let's go through some things. And callers, I'm going to go to you as well. Actually, first, let's go ahead and go to a caller. Then I want to go through some audio clips, and Chris and I are just going to comment on them, have a conversation. You guys are free to call in and join the conversation at 888-971-7243. 888-971-7243, coming to you live from the ReliefFactor.com studio. Let's go to Frank in Pennsylvania. Frank, welcome to the Larry Elder Show. You've got the mic.
Hi, I got why don't we still in the White House replace this administration before there's a civil war? Because there will be a civil war, guaranteed.
Yeah, Frank. Well, here's the deal. We would all like to replace Joe Biden. There's no doubt about that. We'd love to replace him. We just run into this thing called the Constitution. We simply do not have the power to replace him. Unfortunately, we don't have enough people in the House. We don't control the House. Democrats control the House. So we can't kick him out. We can't impeach him. It's just not going to happen. The only thing that we can do, unfortunately, right now, Frank, is stand strong, endure, and next year kick their behinds in the elections. We just got to make sure, to the best of our ability, we're getting involved. And obviously, we have to pay attention to election integrity, because Democrats are going to try to keep this COVID virus going. They're going to try to scare you with COVID for, in my opinion, at least another 2 election cycles. And God forbid something else pops up, Democrats will continue to do that. So I understand your frustration, Frank. Unfortunately, Republicans and or conservatives simply don't have the power. We just don't have enough people to remove the guy.
Carl,
I think it's going to be a civil war, okay? A civil war.
Carl, can I jump in here?
Please do.
Frank, I understand your frustration. We deal with this here in Orlando quite often because a lot of people are frustrated. What you have to understand is what the left is doing, what the globalists are doing, is purposely dividing us. dividing us within our nation in a fashion we've never been divided like before, except perhaps during the Civil War. And we can't allow them to bring us to violence like that. We can't allow them to divide us the way they are doing. We have the power, we have the numbers to stop this, simply by saying we're not going to hate our neighbor because they're a Democrat. We're going to disagree with them, we're going to hold to our position, but we're not going to hate them. And if we do that, we can thwart this effort to divide us. They're trying to divide us by race. They're trying to divide us by vaccines. They're trying to divide us by the border crisis. They're trying to divide us by the elections. They're trying to divide us in each and every way. It goes back to Lincoln. United we stand, divided we fall. Yeah. We cannot allow them to succeed, and we have the power to stop it. Politicians are incapable. They're caught up in it. We have to do this. We alone can do it.
And Frank, we thank you for the call. And it goes back to what I said at the beginning of the show. We have the monopoly on truth. We just have to speak it. We have to utilize it. Think about it in this way. The Constitution has survived. The Constitution has allowed us to thrive. The Constitution has worked. Everything the left is attempting to do right now, it's never worked. Socialism has failed everywhere it's been tried. We know this. Now, granted, we are under assault when it comes to the Biden administration. But still, in the end, I believe if we can stand up, if we can endure, if we can start to speak up, get involved, we can win.
Look at what's happening. You mentioned the truth. The truth is coming out in various ways. We just had this audit in Arizona, which contains a great deal of truth about fraud that happened there. You had the truth glaringly in front of us about Afghanistan. You have now the border crisis, which is showing up in the media like it hasn't before because they think that they have something with these horse riders. But in fact, the whole country is upset about what's going on there. The truth is going to get us out of this. We're in a terrible storm right now. You know, we endure hurricanes here in Florida all the time, basically. But you endure the storm, you ride it out, then you assess the damage, and you rebuild. And something to what you just said, you know, when we started our show here in Orlando 11 years ago, I said on the very first show that if Barack Obama was in the studio, I would grab him by the shoulders, yank him up to my face, and kiss him right on the lips. Because what he was doing was pushing the country so far to the left, I knew at some point we would swing hard back to the right. The same thing is going on now, except even more so. And you're seeing it in these polls, you're seeing it in the independents. They are the ones who are going to change this nation, and Biden is forcing them to see the reality of the left.
Yeah.
No tongues. I wasn't going to do the tongues now.
Listen, let's go through a couple of audio clips. This is what Biden had to say back in '94. Audio clip number 2, por favor, Sean.
If Haiti, a god-awful thing to say, if Haiti just quietly sunk into the Caribbean or rose up 300 feet, it wouldn't matter a whole lot.
This is what I want people to understand about Biden. He's never been lunchbox Biden. He's not a kind guy. He's not a nice guy. Everybody was calling Trump mean, evil, and all this kind of nonsense. This is a guy that's actually putting evil to straight up practice. Allowing illegal aliens to come into our country. You heard a caller that called in earlier in the show that was a legal immigrant. And I hate that what the left is doing is cheapening the American experience. But the American experience is something that's worth fighting for. Now, it's worth fighting for at the ballot at the ballot box. Listen, I don't want this thing to go to civil war. That would not work out well.
That's what the left wants.
Yeah.
Look at the traction they got out of that little skirmish on January the 6th. Could you imagine if there were actually some real violence, what they would do to this country?
And sadly, right now they have the power. Listen, it's we the people. We've been forced to wake up. The election cycle 2020 just helped us realize, okay, it exposed the left. Now we know what we need to do. Now we know how we need to fight, and we just got to fight. This is Carl Jackson in for Larry Elder. We'll be back in a few.
Streaming on Salem Now.
The public would be outraged if they knew the truth.
Why do you think our
Our politicians are not on the sidewalk right now talking to you.
Don't have no respect.
The old wall randomly turns into a guardrail, followed by miles of open border.
Human trafficking.
That journey is extremely dangerous.
The 7-year-old girl died in the desert.
From the country of India.
A great pillar of the community was killed by a man who had been deported at least twice.
This little urn contains the ashes of my son. His dreams cut short forever.
We're so worried about other countries' problems, and we don't even focus on our own.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
I grew up poor, which is even worse than being poor.
Our lunch consisted of whatever my mother could scrape together from the dinner the night before. We would have sandwiches with no meat.
My American dream entailed working hard and making $20,000 a year. But I surpassed that goal and became a corporate CEO. Put in an economic growth plan called 999.
999! We'll all be able to say, free at last! Free at last!
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
The only time you can come to Christ, when the Spirit of God calls.
You ever thought of going to seminary?
Billy Graham.
Gloria a Dios, hermano. ¿Quién está listo para ser transformado por el poder de su palabra?
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
The Democratic Party somehow has convinced black people that they're the good guys. Never mind the skanky history of the Democratic Party. That was a party of slavery.
They're racist, racist, racist. Everything's racist.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Trending now.
All right, welcome back to the Larry Elders Show. This is Carl Jackson filling in for the great Eldersky. The number to call in, 888-971-7243, 888-971-7243. In studio with me is Christopher Hart of the American Adversaries. Chris, how can people find you?
You can just find us at AmericanAdversaries.com or American Adversaries on Facebook.
All right, so here's a...
Real quick, Carl, can I just add one last thought? You know, we understand Frank's and our listeners' frustration with what's going on right now, but it's like I said back when Obama was president. Our Constitution was written for just times just like this. Our Constitution was written with people like Obama and Biden and the Clintons in mind. We will get through this. We just can't give in to the hate and the vitriol that's coming at us from every direction.
You know, this is Will Witt of PragerU just wrote a book, and for all of you out there, I encourage you to buy these for your college-aged kids. And honestly, for some adults, and the name of the book, why do I forget it at this time? How to win friends and influence enemies. And basically what Will Witt does in this book is, he obviously millions and millions of people, hundreds of millions of people have seen his videos. And so he's written this book teaching people how to not only debate with people, but do it in a humorous way, do it in a good way, and, teaching people arguments on how to persuade people. And that's what we need. We have the monopoly on truth. We have the monopoly on truth.
And
we need to utilize that.
And you've utilized on your show a couple of adages. What's the one? People won't care if you care unless they know you care about them.
Yeah, people don't care what you know unless they know how much you care.
And the left wants you mad because when you're mad, you don't think.
Exactly right. And that's now you guys know that I get frustrated, but I get frustrated because I know what they're trying to do. And I know they're trying to steal freedom right from under our noses. This is the best country that God has ever given man, bar none. The left knows it, but they want to change it into their image, into their godless. Listen to the Haitians, or consider the Haitians that are coming here. Do you know these people literally have thrown their IDs? Most of them come from Chile and Brazil. And they threw their IDs across the border because they wanted to come into America, because they say America is 1,000,000 times better than Haiti. The reason why they decided to leave Chile and Brazil is because it's only 1,000 times better. So people around the world know that this is the greatest country God has ever given man. We just have to continue to fight for it. Chris, last words.
Well, Larry Elder may be the sage from South Central, but you are the saved, as in saved by Jesus Christ from South Central. Such a pleasure to be on the show with you, Carl. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Christopher Hart of the American Adversaries. This is Carl Jackson. Guys, I'll come back with your calls, and we'll have more. Plenty of audio clips coming up. Carl Jackson in for Larry Elder. We'll be back.
Streaming on Salem Now.
We understand that a plane has crashed into...
The people who knock these buildings down will hear all of us soon.
Biggest and most costly manhunt in U.S. history.
United States killed Osama bin Laden.
There are reports surfacing that Al-Qaeda has placed a $50,000 US bounty on the heads of any U.S. Navy SEALs.
Nobody's going to survive that. There's nobody in that.
This is the single largest loss of life in Afghanistan in a single incident.
Most of them are U.S. Navy SEALs.
We discovered bullets in the bodies of the Navy SEALs. The military threw them away.
More likely than not, that supports a shootout on board.
Anybody out there, we have a fallen angel.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
The public would be outraged if they knew the truth.
Why do you think our politicians are not on the sidewalk right now talking to you?
Don't have no respect.
The old wall randomly turns into a guardrail, followed by miles of open border.
Human trafficking.
That journey is extremely dangerous.
The 7-year-old girl died in the desert.
From the country of India.
A great pillar of the community was killed by a man who had been deported at least twice.
This little urn contains the ashes of my son. His dreams cut short forever.
We're so worried about other countries' problems, and we don't even focus on our own.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
This is a story of how 1 million children were placed with local foster families. Parents from all walks of life share their stories of overcoming the one-child policy by taking in orphans.
At a time where there's so much negativity and cynicism, here's proof that a single leap of faith can change the world.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
This is a story of how 1 million children were placed with local foster families through an unlikely alliance between the Chinese government and a British footballer. Parents from all walks of life share their stories of overcoming the one-child policy by taking in orphans. With unprecedented access across the country, this is a unique insight into the lives of the 90s orphans now driving the 21st century's fastest growing economy.
This story needs to be told across the world. At a time where there's so much negativity and cynicism, here's proof that a single leap of faith can change the world.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
You're out of your mind if you think this family can pick you up every time you fall.
Every time I take one step forward, seems like I fall.
Boy, Dylan Wright came in this morning. He wants to fight you.
Never say die, gonna give it all.
This is your opportunity to get back on your feet.
This is my time. Won't quit, I'll just be good.
You gotta know who it is you're fighting for. That's the fight, Bo.
I can't believe I'm saying it, that Bo Lawson can go 10 years without a competitive fight, and here he is going toe-to-toe with the world champion. No one expected this out of him.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
There's about 57 Muslim states in the world. There's one Jewish state.
The massive ingathering of Jews in the last 150 years back to the land is absolutely unprecedented.
They say that there's no greater sign of redemption coming than the Jewish people returning to the hills of Judea.
As a Christian, I've always supported Israel's claim to the Holy Land. To me, the Palestinians were just getting in the way of God's plan.
300,000 Palestinians are unemployed.
In spite of all the years of conflict, there's hope here, if you know where to look for it.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
Tesla was a genius. His most amazing discoveries thought to be written in a lost journal. Now, in the right hands, it could revolutionize the 21st century.
You can stop an earthquake. Doesn't that mean you could start one too?
That's why that notebook should never fall into the wrong hands.
Shall we stop this thing?
Save the universe!
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to
The Christ, when the Spirit of God flows.
You ever thought of going to seminary?
Billy Graham.
Gloria a Dios, hermano. ¿Quién está listo para ser transformado por el poder de su palabra?
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
Fiance? No, I can't be your fiance.
You're gonna go. You're gonna be my fiance, and you're gonna be the most amazing, fascinating, most successful man ever. We're only gonna be there for a few hours, eat dinner, and I promise we'll have the best breakup of all time.
My baby, my princess. Oh, yeah.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.
All right, welcome back to the Larry Elder Show. This is your special guest host, Carl Jackson, filling in for the great El Dursty. Just a quick update on the Arizona election audit. So the basically, what is it? Arizona releases audit results as the state Senate president says statutes were broken. So basically what they found that there were approximately 44,000 votes that they're saying Biden has won with. Here's the problem, and this is why there's error in this. And honestly, the only thing that we're going to be able to do is fight for the future, because these people that cheated, in my opinion, are going to do everything they can to keep themselves out of jail. I don't believe that Biden won Arizona for a second, but I do believe that Republicans were sleeping on the job, and now it's time to do better. If there's machinery you don't trust, quite frankly, I don't understand why every red state at this point does not go to a paper ballot. It makes no sense to me. If you love America, guess what? Show up and vote. I mean, unless you are verifiably disabled, then I think you should show up and vote. And then if you are verifiably disabled, then you should be able to request a ballot. If you're incapable of requesting a ballot, there should be someone. I wouldn't mind a person allowed that's allowed to request a ballot for you, but they would have to have their name, their ID, so that you can track them, so that there's absolutely no cheating whatsoever. But the ballot still would have to be requested. I think that's the only way we get past this. We want to, we want to deal with all of this technology, but the fact of the matter is technology makes it easier to cheat. And the only way that you're going to the only way that any of us are going to feel good about our elections, in my opinion, is to go back to a paper ballot system. I mean, this is simple. Why Republicans don't fight for this, I do not know. It makes no sense to me whatsoever. The Republican-controlled Arizona State Senate on Friday released the findings of its month-long, much-anticipated audit of the 2020 election. Results had tipped just the news, and the results are in for Maricopa County, with the state Senate President Karen Fann expressly challenging selective leaks and premature analysis that ignores findings of statutes that were broken in the conduct of the election. Fann championed the audit effort while also placing blame for the delays and incompleteness of the review at the feet of county officials who said she failed to cooperate. I'm very disappointed, she said, to see that Maricopa County refused to cooperate with us. Fann said in the state's legislative chambers before the audit experts dove into the finding. Not only did they not cooperate with us, they even went so far as to sue us. Guys, why would they hide the ballots this entire time? Why would they not allow people to do this auditing right at the get-go so that there could be confidence in our election? I hate that we have to play this blue-red Republican-Democrat game, and we just totally abandon common sense. We all know, as grown people, anyone with a modicum of common sense, the only way that they would hide this stuff for so long, not allow these auditors access to the servers, is because they want to cheat. They want to make some corrections and hide numbers. Nonetheless, we slept as Republicans. We know what to do in the next election. We know what to do in 2024. If you have weak Republicans that don't stand strong when it comes to election integrity, fire them pretty quickly, because your freedom is literally at stake here. So roughly there were about 44,000 ballots that determined the election in Arizona. Or actually, it says Biden won the state and its electoral votes by just over 10,400 votes after securing Maricopa County, which Biden won by more than 45,000 votes. The problem is all of those votes that he won were mail-in ballot, and a lot of those votes were not, people didn't request them. So, I mean, obviously, there's just a bunch of issues there. But nonetheless, this is the result. It's fine. We're not going to be able to change anything until 2022. So conservatives, you have to fight. You have to fight for what you believe in, because nothing's happening until 2022. And make sure that you get some great candidates. Don't get weak-kneed Republicans that are scared to tell you what they really stand for. You know, it's honestly, those days are gone. It's got to be fighters or bust. It's as simple as that. The left is destroying this country. They're using race. They're using greed. People talk about capitalists being greed. I think capitalism can be greedy, if this makes sense, in a good way, because people are inspired to get out and work and earn in order to provide for themselves, in order to provide for their families. Whereas socialism is, I'm going to stay on my butt. You work, I eat. It's just totally different. So both of them have some type of greed motivation, but I would say greed when it comes to socialism is just immoral. I mean, you're literally telling people, hey, you go bust your butt, you go break a sweat, you go do all the work. I'm just going to sit back and collect the bounty from your work. That's what socialism is. Socialism has never succeeded. It's failed everywhere it's tried. And now they want to try it right here in America. And they're using race as well as finances to continue to divide us. I want to take you to this audio clip of there were some young ladies, and now there were some young ladies in the state. Was it Arizona, Sean? Because now I've misplaced. Arizona State University. Thank you. And here it is. College students confront white peers with police lives matter. So this was white on white crime. Two white students appearing to be on Arizona State University's campus were confronted over a quote unquote racist sticker. I had to forget, man, by the way, for this article, and then the audio coming from Sean. There was a racist sticker, they claim, on a computer reading "Police Lives Matter." And we're told to leave the area, according to a viral video of the incident. You're offensive, and I'm quoting, "You're offensive. Police lives matter," says a woman who confronts two white. Actually, let's just go to the audio clip, because apparently, if you believe in police, if you believe in safety, you're a racist now. Everything is racism with the Democrats. Guys, we have a monopoly on truth. We can love each other despite our skin color, but despite some cultural differences, we should continue to love one another. Our Judeo-Christian value system is the bomb. It is the best. Our system is the best in the world. We don't have the best people. We do have the best system, and we shouldn't be afraid to say so. And we shouldn't be afraid to call the bigots on the left the true bigots. Let's go ahead and play the audio clip.
Wrong. You have a better. You're offensive. Police lives matter.
You have the same sticker. We're just trying to do school.
What?
You guys have the same sticker of the other.
But this is our space.
We've got a Police Lives Matter sticker, and we're getting kicked out. Can't do school. Nobody's kicking out. You just said we have to leave.
No, I said you're making the space uncomfortable.
Uncomfortable.
But you're white. Do you understand what a multicultural space? It means you're not being centered.
White's not a culture?
No. No, it's not a culture. It's white is not a culture. Say it again to the camera. You think whiteness is a culture?
This is insane.
So anyways, this is the violence that ASU does, and this is the type of people that they protect. Okay, this white man thinks he can take up our space, and this is why we need a multicultural space, because they think they can get away with it.
I'm gonna sit here the whole time, and you can find somebody to kick me out.
That's cool. We will.
We're not kicking you out. We're asking you to leave if you have any consideration for people of color and or marginalized.
So clearly don't.
That I can go?
Yeah.
Okay. Here's. These people are idiots. We'll talk about it on the other side. Oh my Lord.
This is why we're fighting for the soul of America. You should be able to share ideas without fear of being fired from your job or shouted down. Are not to be heard. This is one of the few things we have no precedent for in the United States.
You have the right to remain silent.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Man, I miss my father, and I want him to be here with me, but he's not.
We all had something in common. A lot of us were miserable. We had no fathers in our lives.
This is how I began the life of crime. I desired to have a father who would tell me that what I did was wrong.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
We understand that a plane has crashed into...
The people who knocked these buildings down will hear all of us soon.
Biggest and most costly manhunt in U.S. history.
United States killed Osama bin Laden.
There are reports surfacing that Al-Qaeda has placed a $50,000 US bounty on the heads of any U.S. Navy SEALs.
Nobody's going to survive that. There's nobody in that.
This is the single largest loss of life in Afghanistan in a single incident.
Most of them are U.S. Navy SEALs.
We discovered bullets in the bodies of the Navy SEALs. The military threw them away.
More likely than not, that supports a shootout on board.
Anybody out there, we have a fallen angel.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
I grew up poor, which is even worse than being poor.
We would have sandwiches with no meat.
My American dream entailed working hard and making $20,000 a year. But I surpassed that goal and became a corporate CEO.
We'll all be able to say, free at last, free at last.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now. Streaming on Salem Now.
Tesla was a genius. His most amazing discoveries thought to be written in a lost journal. Now, in the right hands, it could revolutionize the 21st century.
You can stop an earthquake. Doesn't that mean you could start one too?
That's why that notebook should never fall into the wrong hands.
Shall we stop this thing?
Save the universe!
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
This is why we're fighting for the soul of America.
You should be able to share ideas without fear of being fired from your job or shouted down.
You are not to be heard. This is one of the few things we have no precedent for in the United States.
You have the right to remain silent.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Year plus of lockdowns and mandates that crippled America's economy. Our leaders in Washington, D.C. still haven't gotten the message. Small business owners are hurting while their big global competitors thrive. What's Washington's response? More talk of mandates, unprecedented government spending, and tax increases on small businesses. The same misguided policies of President Carter that led to soaring gas prices, record inflation, and job losses. Only one organization in America is fighting the war on small business being waged by President Biden and the Democrats. That's Job Creators Network. If you own a small business or are a friend of small business, join the growing army of JCN members now and learn how to become a small business advocate. The American people love and trust our small business owners, but they need to hear from you, hear your stories and your struggles. As part of their effort to expose the threat to small business from leftist policies like higher taxes and more regulations, along with massive government spending, Job Creators Network is taking their message on the road in September and October to bring the small business back bus tour, maybe coming to your town. Visit jcnbustour.com to see the tour schedule. And if you live in or around Atlanta, get your tickets to 2 special events with speakers you won't want to miss. Go to jcnbustour.com for even more event info and future tour stops. I'm asking all small business owners and friends of small business to join Job Creators Network. We all have to join together to support the engine of our economy. jcnbustour.com. That's jcnbustour.com. Quickly, let me give you some breaking news, and then I want to respond to this audio of these social justice warriors on our college campuses. God almighty, somebody, this is absolutely nuts. I have the story in front of me, but Sean playing the audio just oh my goodness, just brings it to life. Oh my goodness, just brings it to life. There's 6.5 more minutes of that. Oh my goodness. First off, oh my God. First off, man, great job, Sean. I mean, first off, we are not a multicultural nation. Multiculturalism is destroying us. We are a multi-ethnic nation. I'll explain the difference, but first I want to bring you this breaking news that I see on Breitbart. Representative Dan Crenshaw says he is quietly talking to Democrats about cutting the catch and release process that many border crossers and illegal aliens utilize to be released and live illegally inside of the United States. So an exclusive interview, this happened on Thursday, actually with Breitbart. Crenshaw told the news editor Alex Marlowe that allowing federal immigration officials to hold border crossers and illegal aliens for an extended time rather than being forced to release them into the interior of the U.S. would be a, quote, simple fix to illegal immigration with massive impact. He goes on to say that the issue stems from the 1997 Flores settlement, which judges have since expanded, where federal immigration officials are limited to holding child border crossers in custody for no longer than 20 days, regardless of whether or not they are accompanied by adults. That's absolute chaos. The fact that you have to hold these people for just, 20 days and then let them go. I mean, it's just insane. They should be repatriated if they don't fix, or if they don't, if their claims aren't cohesive with our laws as far as asylum is concerned. If there isn't any type of struggle or persecution due to race, due to ethnicity, due to your religious, upbringing, your nationality, you should go bye-bye. You can't come to America just because you want to earn a better living or make a better living. It just doesn't work that way. We don't have the capacity to be able to do such a thing. So that would be a small fix that would perhaps work. As a result, adult border crossers have used Flores by bringing children with them as they come to the U.S.-Mexico border in the hopes to claim credible fear and eventually get released into the U.S. interior with only the promise that they will show up to asylum hearings in the future. You think these Haitians that were released are going to show up to asylum to show up to their asylum hearings or whatever? It's not going to happen. Crenshaw goes on to say, you just have to increase the number of days that we're allowed to hold migrants until processing. We'll see if that pans out. Right now the limit is 21 days, and that's because it's 21 days for family units. This is why they bring kids with them, because it guarantees, this again is Crenshaw, guarantees them that catch and release status because you can't hold them past that 21 days. Listen, here's the bottom line. We got to seal our borders. We got to fight for that. That's got to be one of the things that we fight for next year. I like what Crenshaw is trying to do. I like fighters. I like anyone that's willing to offer solutions to end these problems. Whether or not some Democrats go along, maybe so. Biden's polls are tanking so badly, Democrats are starting to realize that he's going to take some of them with him down the drain. Let me speak to this issue again of this audio. Again, these people, these social justice warriors that were calling these other students racist on the campus of Arizona State University simply because they had a Police Lives Matter sticker is absolute nonsense. And then they're talking about, listen, what did the girl say? Whites don't have a culture or something? I mean, this is so ignorant. These are college students, mind you. These are college students. America is a e pluribus unum. All right. So we have multiple ethnicities, but we only have one culture, and that is the American culture. And that is what the left is trying to destroy. They want this multiculturalism because all of a sudden it's us against them. And we can't. You heard Christopher Hart say this. He's absolutely right. We cannot let these people divide us. We simply cannot allow them to do it. Listen. We have to express the exceptionalism of the Constitution and why it matters. As people of faith, we have to express why we love people regardless of skin color. None of that stuff matters to them. It sounds like such a cliche. I almost hate saying it, but you love people based upon the content of their character. You love people based upon who they are on the inside, not what they look like on the outside. The only way that we're going to get back to being united as Americans is e pluribus unum, from many one. Yeah, we may look different, we may sound different, we may be of different weights, but you know what? We are one culture. We are the American culture. We are the American culture, and that's extremely important to remember. I see your calls out there. I'm going to get to you on the other side there, Dominique, but it's important to remember. Listen, guys, we're Americans. We're Americans. Before we're Democrats, before we're Republicans, we're Americans. God forbid there's another terrorist attack on our soil. I pray to God that's not going to be the case, but with feckless Biden in the White House, I wouldn't doubt it for a second. But if something like that happens, pay attention to who's trying to help you out. It's going to be your neighbor. They're not going to care about your weight. They're not going to care about your skin color. They're not going to care about your accent. They're going to understand that you're American. God forbid we get to that point where we have another 9/11. But listen, guys, we're American first. We are multi-ethnic. We are not multicultural. That's the difference. This is Carl Jackson in for Larry Elder. We'll be back on the other side.
Have you ever thought of going to seminary?
Billy Graham.
Gloria a Dios, hermanos. ¿Quién está listo para ser transformado por el poder de sus palabras?
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
The Democratic Party somehow has convinced black people that they're the good guys. Never mind the skanky history of the Democratic Party. That was a party of slavery. There is a whole big cottage industry for racism. If racism went away, a lot of people would be unemployed.
The mob during the Minneapolis riots following the death of George Floyd. A bunch of white thugs, frankly, burning down the city's traditional black and Asian business district.
They're racist, racist, racist. Everything's racist.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
Tesla was a genius. His most amazing discoveries thought to be written in a lost journal. Now, in the right hands, it could revolutionize the 21st century.
If you can stop an earthquake, doesn't that mean you could start one too?
That's why that notebook should never fall into the wrong hands.
There's an old brown battered notebook in my office at work. You have to find it, take it, and keep it hidden at all costs.
We are to build the superhuman. We must first eliminate those who are flawed.
People are created equally. All of downtown, the high-rises were built on rollers to withstand horizontal shakes. A vertical quake this size could collapse half of downtown.
Shall we stop this thing?
Save the universe!
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
The public would be outraged if they knew the truth. Politicians are not on the sidewalk right now talking to you.
Don't have no respect.
The old wall randomly turns into a guardrail, followed by miles of open border.
Human trafficking gone.
That journey is extremely dangerous.
The 7-year-old girl died in the desert.
From the country of India.
A great pillar of the community was killed by a man who had been deported at least twice.
This little urn contains the ashes of my son. His dreams cut short forever.
We're so worried about other countries' problems, and we don't even focus on our own.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
This is a story of how 1 million children were placed with local foster families. Parents from all walks of life share their stories of overcoming the one-child policy by taking in orphans. At a time where there's so much negativity and cynicism, here's proof that a single leap of faith can change the world.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Listen, let me just share this. Biden is sinking. Tip forgot, man. Biden is sinking. 21-point loss in 2 months. 93% have inflation concerns, and most signal multiple issues. Biden's presidency is sinking fast, you guys. We do have hope. I know this is frustrating. I know that we're going to go through a lot, but the bottom line is Biden's administration is sinking fast, and we got to stick together. We just got to be willing to speak truth and love, and I think we will get past this. The fact that Big Perm, aka Al Sharpton, was heckled today on the border. Listen, he's down at the Rio Grande. He's down at Del Rio. They got a mix of people there. They got a Democrat, governor. Those areas are largely ran by Democrats. So they knew he was a joke. People heckling him, saying, "Get out of here. How much are you making for this?" And, I mean, that is good stuff. That tells you people are fed up with this nonsense. You guys know that Trump is, not Trump, but you guys hear Jorge Bonilla of Media Research Center Latino. We spoke about earlier this week how Latinos, they are not supporting Biden in the numbers they had hoped. This guy is hurting. It's hurting the Democrats. And the news couldn't come at a worse time for Biden. Nearly 79-year-old president. This guy's the oldest president in history. He's dealing with all of these crises, if you will, that have erupted under his watch. This guy is trying to blame Trump for it, but here he is. He evacuates all of these Afghans, many of whom we did not check. They're bringing in measles and mumps. We didn't vet them. Measles and mumps. You have these others too that were brought here and charged with sex crimes. One for strangling his wife. For God's sakes, this is Biden. This is all Biden. Biden inherited an economy that was coming back. Biden inherited vaccines. Biden inherited an America that was willing to give him a chance. He squandered all of that, and it's hurting him. It's hurting him. The president's party on average loses 14 seats in the House of Representatives if his approval rating is under 50%. And Biden's is under 50%. If their approval rating is below 50%, they lose on average 37 House seats. The Democrats under former President Barack Obama lost 63 seats. I believe under Trump it was approximately 40 seats. But if you stay below 50%, you're going to lose seats. This guy is where is he at? He's at 44% right now, and this according to Pew. In other polls, I've seen him even lower than that. So this is happening. Anyway, let's take a call here. Let's go to Dominique in Clearwater. Dominique, welcome to the Larry Elder Show. You got the mic.
Jackson, thank you so much for this show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
In my few years living in America, this has been the most shocking thing ever for me to see. And I sat down, I really think about it. I find out it all comes down to one thing.
Okay.
DEBT, debt. A young little kid will tell a scientist, I cancel you. And he can't say nothing because he has piled up so much debt living in a place that he don't belong. Conservative, we have to go back to your forefather. Live below your means. What good is life when you have no right? Trump got a stadium full of people, but how many of those people can really stand up with him?
Yep.
They can't. They can't because they're chasing this false dream that the devil has dropped in this country, which has nothing to do with this country. False dream. Debt. They can cancel a president out of social media, and there he's standing. I feel so bad for Trump, and he looked left, he looked right. There's nobody. Why? Because of DEBT. The day we control and know that the Satan will come to your house if you don't watch the way it's coming. If you don't control your finances, you don't have no voice.
Man, good word.
You don't have no voice.
Dominic, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Listen, the nation is spiritually bankrupt and morally bankrupt with Biden in charge. There's no doubt that we're financially bankrupt, and they're trying to take us further there. But that is a good point. The borrower is slave to the lender. That's what Scripture tells us. Get out of debt. You're going to need to right now. This is Carl Jackson in for Larry Elder. We'll be back.
Streaming on Salem Now.
This is a story of how 1 million children were placed with local foster families through an unlikely alliance between the Chinese government and a British footballer. Parents from all walks of life share their stories of overcoming the one-child policy by taking in orphans. With unprecedented access across the country, this is a unique insight into the lives of the 90s orphans now driving the 21st century's fastest growing economy. This story needs to be told across the world. At a time where there's so much negativity and cynicism, here's proof that a single leap of faith can change the world.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
You're out of your mind if you think this family can pick you up every time you fall.
Every time I take one step forward, seems like I fall.
Boy, Dylan Wright came in this morning. He wants to fight you.
Never say die, gonna give it all.
This is your opportunity to get back on your feet.
This is my time. Won't quit, I've just begun.
You gotta know who it is you're fighting for. That's the fight, Bo.
I can't believe I'm saying it, that Bo Lawson can go 10 years without a competitive fight, and here he is going toe-to-toe with the world champion. No one expected this out of him.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
There's about 57 Muslim states in the world. There's one Jewish state.
The massive ingathering of Jews in the last 150 years back to the land is absolutely unprecedented.
They say that there's no greater sign of redemption coming than the Jewish people returning to the hills of Judea.
As a Christian, I've always supported Israel's claim to the Holy Land. To me, the Palestinians were just getting in the way of God's plan.
300,000 Palestinians are unemployed.
In spite of all the years of conflict, there's hope here, if you know where to look for it.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store, or go to salemnow.com.
The Democratic Party somehow has convinced black people that they're the good guys. Never mind the skanky history of the Democratic Party. That was a party of slavery. There is a whole big cottage industry for racism. If racism went away, a lot of people would be unemployed.
The mob during the Minneapolis riots following the death of George Floyd. A bunch of white thugs, frankly, burning down the city's traditional black and Asian business district.
They're racist, racist, racist. Everything's racist.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store, or go to salemnow.com. Streaming.
The only time you can come to Christ, when the Spirit of God comes.
You ever thought of going to seminary?
Billy Graham.
Gloria a Dios, hermanos. Y él está listo para ser transformado por el poder de su palabra.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store, or go to
This is your special guest host, Carl Jackson, filling in for the great El Dursky. We're going to go through some audio clips. Art, I see you there. I want to make sure I get to your call. But I want you to understand, I'm going to go back to what I said in the first hour. A lot of people on the left, they don't understand who their real enemies are. We talked about Uncle BLM. We talked about the people that are standing up against these vaccine mandates. And I'm so happy that they're standing up against the vaccine mandates. But I don't like the fact that they're vilifying this restaurant because they don't understand who the real enemies are. I don't like the fact that they're vilifying the NYPD because they don't understand who their real enemies are. Unfortunately, overwhelmingly, blacks continue to vote for those that want to systematically oppress them. And then you go back to this story, these Arizona college kids at Arizona State University, and we played the audio for you where they're being confronted and they're being called racist because they have Police Lives Matter stickers on. And these young people that are calling these people racist, they don't realize who's trying to keep them down. They don't realize who's trying to divide them. It's amazing to me when I think about this, when I just sat and thought about this and just how illogic this is. So one of these people that are telling these kids at Arizona State University that they're racist, she goes on to say that there's no white culture. Well, if that's true, then your argument falls flat that America is systemically racist, because isn't it based upon that? This is how dumbed down our college campuses have become. They used to be places where you would go to learn how to critically think. Now it's get indoctrinated, get bullied. This is absolute nonsense. We are not a multicultural nation. We are a multi-ethnic nation. We have one culture. It's called an American culture. And I think you guys need to start speaking that. I need to definitely speak this behind the microphone. We're going to go through some audio clips because I want you to understand leftists, sadly, are the enemies of the United States. Leftists are the enemies of the United States. I want to play a couple of clips from Maxine Waters. Let's just run through these, Sean. Let's go to audio clip number 7. Here's Maxine Waters.
To be able
we witness takes us back hundreds of years. What we witnessed was worse than what we witnessed in slavery. Cowboys, with their reins again, whipping black people, Haitians, into the water where they're scrambling and falling down, and all they're trying to do is escape from violence in their country.
All right, so here's this woman. First off, let me make this correction from this. All right, let me not get crazy here. Let me make this correction about something that Maxine Waters said. She said, listen, Maxine Waters, you are a congresswoman. You are extremely wealthy. You live in, I believe, a $6 million home in Los Angeles, if I'm not mistaken. You have not experienced slavery. I don't doubt at your age that you've experienced some facets of racism, but you're not today. Today, you're just cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, and all you do is keep this nonsense going. This lady, and I don't say this to be hyperbolic, this lady is an enemy to the black community. This lady is a sellout. Carl, how can you say that? Why would you say such things? Look at where she's at. This lady is she should not even be in Congress, in my opinion, but she's in Congress, and she's respected for God knows why in the United States Congress. And here she does. She goes to the border to talk about how blacks are impressed. First off, these aren't Americans. We all know she's lying. Anybody with a modicum of common sense, anybody that can see, understands that these border patrol agents, and the border patrol agents are standing up. Thank God, more people are standing up. But here this lady is calling these people racist, talking about we're going back to the days of slavery. It's her party. It was her party. For God's sake. This lady is in complete and utter disgrace. And I'm sorry, these young people in Arizona, these Uncle BLM protesters, you don't know who your enemies are. You have it so damn good in America. You have to make up fake crises in order to feel purposeful, in order to find meaning in your life. You guys need a psychiatrist. This is insane. Let's go through more. Maxine Waters, audio clip number 8.
I'm happy with the administration. We are following the Trump policy. He is the one that does not follow the Constitution and would not allow those seeking refuge to be able to petition to get into the country. What the hell are we doing here?
Well, we were following the Constitution, you liar. The only reason asylum or people are allowed asylum is due to persecution or fear due to race, religion, nationality, membership, because they belong to a particular social group or religion. That's it. Political opinion. That's it. These people from Haiti and listen, we're not even paying attention to the other 30 or so thousand that are coming across the border while we focus or while they try to distract us with this Haiti issue. But these people are leaving their ID cards across the border because it's a doggone lie. They do not qualify for asylum. I want people to come here legally. I do believe this is a great country, but we have to have a systematic process of immigration. Otherwise, we destroy the country. I know that's what the left is trying to do, but I'm not going to let this lady get away with lying about it. And I can't stand, listen, I'm sorry. And I know blacks come after me too. I get it all the time, Twitter, Facebook. So I don't care. What I'm not going to do is sit here and pretend like this lady is valuable to the black community. I hate to say it, but I'm going to just say it. This lady is a disgrace. When I see successful black people, all I want to hear out of your damn mouth is how you got there. You want to help the black community? Tell them how you became successful. This is insane. I'm so tired of people like this. These are the sellouts. These are the sellouts. Maxine Waters.
Miss my father. and I want him to be here with me, but he's not.
We all had something in common. A lot of us were miserable. We had no fathers in our lives.
This is how I began the life of crime. I desired to have a father who would tell me that what I did was wrong.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
Fiance? No, I can't be a fiance.
You're gonna go. You're gonna be my fiance, and you're gonna be the most amazing, fascinating, most successful man ever. We're only gonna be there for a few hours, eat dinner, and I promise we'll have the best breakup of all time.
My baby, my princess. Oh, yeah.
Beat a little bit.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
The only time you can come to Christ, when the Spirit of God comes.
You ever thought of going to seminary?
Billy Graham.
Gloria a Dios, hermanos. ¿Quién está listo para ser transformado por el poder de su palabra?
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
The Democratic Party somehow has convinced black people that they're the good guys. Never mind the skanky history of the Democratic Party. That was a party of slavery. There is a whole big cottage industry for racism. If racism went away, a lot of people would be unemployed.
The mob during the Minneapolis riots following the death of George Floyd. A bunch of white thugs, frankly, burning down the city's traditional black and Asian business district.
They're racist, racist, racist. Everything's racist.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
Tesla was a genius. His most amazing discoveries thought to be written in a lost journal. Now, in the right hands, it could revolutionize the 21st century.
If you can stop an earthquake, doesn't that mean you could start one too?
That's why that notebook should never fall into the wrong hands.
There's an old brown battered notebook in my office at work. You have to find it, take it, and keep it hidden at all costs.
If we are to build the superhuman, we must first eliminate those who are flawed.
People are created equally. All of downtown, the high-rises were built on rollers to withstand horizontal shakes. A vertical quake this size could collapse half of downtown.
Shall we stop this thing?
Save the universe!
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
You know what the good news is? Although this is frustrating, we live in a nation where Maxine Waters we can't get her out of office, and we can't get Larry Elder into office. I took that line from Sean. I gotta give him credit because it was so good, but it's so true. But the bottom line is still, guys, we have to continue. we have to continue to fight, and listen, we can win. We just got to do this. Ignore the people like Maxine Waters. Ignore Big Perm. Don't pay attention to these people. Seriously, if God has given you a gift, use it. Use it. We don't live in a racist nation. Had to forget, man, just real quick, and I'll take a couple of your calls, but we'll have to be really quick here. The photographer who took the photos of the Border Patrol horses takes a sledgehammer to this lie. He says, I've never seen these agents whip anyone. He was swinging it, but it can be misconstrued when you're looking at the picture. His name is Paul Ratchey. He says agents use their reins for a lot of reasons. Primarily, it's used to steer the horse, but agents will also spin them sometimes to deter people from getting too close to the horse. If they get too close, the horse can step on them, so breaking bones or causing other injuries. Agents also need to maintain control of their reins so they don't lose control of the horse, which can cause injuries to immigrants, the agents, and the horses. So he's saying it never happens. They never do that. So anyway, we have good people on the border. Pray for them and pray they stay safe and pray that Biden, all this stuff blows up in their face. Let's take a quick call. Let's go to Art in Oregon. Art, we got a short period of time, but you got the mic.
Oh, I know. Multiculturalism is the downfall of the colleges. There is no doubt about it. I just want to say that young lady, she can't have her cake and eat it too. She runs around saying that white people suffer from white privilege. Now, isn't that a cultural thing? I would think so. The simple fact of the matter is, Carl.
10 seconds, Art. 10 seconds.
You have God-given talents. I have God-given talents. If we use those talents to make our lives better, we will make it better. If we don't, if we ignore it, then we fail. And these people
You're
are
right,
just
Art.
terrible.
Just for the sake of time, we have to go.
You.
God bless you. Thank you for the call. Claudia, I see you out there. She says, thank Larry for running, and thank you. Thank you, Claudia. I appreciate you being out there in the listening audience, calling from Claremont, California. We're just simply running out of time. Guys, until next week, don't grow weary doing good, and God bless.
From the left coast to the right coast, it's the Larry Elder Show with special guest Carl Jackson.